10.4, posting from a cash receipts journal. You have two objectives. You need to be able to post cash receipts to an accounts receivable ledger and a general ledger, and you need to be able to prepare a schedule of accounts receivable. So first we're looking at posting from the cash receipts journal to the accounts receivable ledger. So here's where we're going to be posting the individual lines to the customer accounts. So our first one, we're posting to Lake Automotive. We start with our date. We're then going to put in our source document, or not our source document, but our journal page. So here we're going to put CR for cash receipts journal, and then 11 for page 11. We're looking at our accounts receivable credit column, and so this is the credit amount that we're going to credit to Lake Automotive. So we'll credit $381.60, and then we need to find our new balance. We had a debit and a credit balance, so we'll subtract those two to get our new debit balance. Last step is we will take the customer account number and bring it to our post reference on our journal. Okay, next is total, proving, and ruling the cash receipts journal. So to do that, we're going to start with our single line rule. We put in our date of the 30th. We label at totals. We're going to total up all of our columns, and then we're going to make sure that our debits equal credits. Now, it doesn't show anything in our general debit or credit column, so it looks like those are 0. Really, we should be putting 0 in there so it doesn't look like we just forgot that. Okay, then what they did is they broke it down and put it into kind of a little table for us, just showing again that our debits and our credits equal. So they put those balances in and added up the debit balances and the credit balances to make sure that they're equal. Once they're equal, then we would double line rule. Next, we're going to prove cash at the end of the month. So proving cash, this is the formula that we're going to use. First, we're going to look at the cash on hand at the beginning of the month. So they have that listed here. Then we're going to add to that the cash that we received during the month. Now, when we think of cash received is just going to be our cash debit total. So we would look at our cash receipts journal, and we would look at that cash debit column total, and that would be this number here. We add those two numbers together to get our total here. Next, we're going to look at our cash that we paid during the month. So for this case, we're going to look at our cash payments journal, and we're going to look at our cash credit column total, because when we pay cash, we credit cash. So the total amount of cash that was credited, we're going to put that number here. And then we're subtracting these two to get our total here. Then to make sure that we are correct, we're going to check our number that we have, and we're going to make sure that it equals the number that we have in our checkbook balance. And so they have checkbook balance on next unused check stub. These two are equal, so that tells us that we should be correct. Okay, then we're going to post our special amount column totals of a cash receipts journal to a general ledger. So here we're looking at all of these column totals, and we're going to post those totals. So they're just showing us our first two right now. First, we're going to start with our date. Remember, this stands for cash receipts journal, page 11. For the accounts receivable, we're going to credit for that total amount, and sales, we're going to credit for that total amount. Then we need to find our new balances. In accounts receivable, we had a debit balance, and then we're crediting, so we would subtract. In our sales, we had a credit balance, and we're crediting, so we would add. Last step then would be bringing our account numbers underneath those totals, showing that we have posted those two totals. Next, they show us the same thing with our sales tax payable, our sales discount, and our cash debit. Here's what our completed accounts receivable ledger would look like. So here we can see all of our customers and what each customer owes us. A schedule of accounts receivable is a lot like our schedule of accounts payable. However, the schedule of accounts receivable is looking at the customers that we have, their account balances, and then the total amount due from all of our customers. Some businesses are going to call this accounts receivable trial balance instead of a schedule of accounts receivable. In this class, we'll always call it a schedule of accounts receivable. So here's what it looks like. Remember, whenever we have a report like this, we're always going to start with the heading of who, what, and when. And here are all of our customers that we have and the amounts that each customer owes us. Then we total that to get our total accounts receivable. This number, remember, we should be able to check with our controlling account. Our controlling account is in our general ledger, and that is simply our accounts receivable account. So this number here should equal what we have in our accounts receivable account. Number 1, from which column of the cash receipts journal are amounts posted individually to the accounts receivable ledger? The accounts receivable credit column. That would be posted to our customer accounts in our accounts receivable ledger. Number 2, what is another name for the schedule of accounts receivable? That would be an accounts receivable trial balance. That was the end of 10.4 lecture. You can now move on to the work together and then the 10.5 lecture.